Fuck it, I'll do it live. All right, guys, we are live
Yay.
here on the Bad Boys live stream. I'm your host T with host R from
What's up?
NJ.RightWingism, and today we got a bunch of Quebecois in the live stream today. They were scheduled to debate
That's redundant.
a bunch of Albertans and Ontarians and what have you, but they all backed out or something came up. So
Yeah, before we start the stream, I would like to call out Right-Wingism BC, who I saw talking shit on Right-Wingism Quebec and who didn't show up, despite being invited and being told the schedule, so, I don't know, man. Where's the balls?
Damn. There
And
wasn't
you're a
balls, bro.
bitch.
Game ended, bro.
So yeah, maybe we can have, if there's more structure, maybe we can have a debate, an actual debate sometime. But I guess it's just gonna be revisited. We have more people, more voices, more personalities here.
For sure.
To discuss Quebec independence. Plus, we have questions from Instagram, from our page on nj.rightwingism. And we also have someone in the chat, Yugoslavia.t. So Yugoslavia, I know you're watching this. If you have any questions for our fellow, Quebecois, not fellow, but these lads here, please feel free in the chat. We'll keep an eye on it and we'll ask them for you. So before we start, we already heard from H in our previous video. And we also heard from Unity, but we do have two new guests here, Supa and View. So I'm gonna start with Supa. If you want to begin, telling us, your ideology, your views on things and whatnot, what you believe in, etc.
I don't have a set of ideology really chosen yet, but I have opinions on different questions, different subjects, and I'm ready to answer all of them if any questions is asked about it.
Okay. And then you View.
Alright, well, I don't either really have an ideology yet. That's pretty much it, eh?
And both of you are from Quebec.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Supa, you have a little bit more of a interesting backstory, I suppose, as to
Well, closer to Europe than North America, actually. But I have a double culture, European and Quebec culture.
Okay. Yeah, that's our basic backstory for our two new guests. So I'm gonna start off with asking both of you now, like what are your general thoughts and opinions on the independence movement inside Quebec?
Yeah, sure.
So if Supa, if you want to start,
I'm totally for it.
We can if there are the questions about Quebec's independence movement, I'm ready to answer them.
Yeah, you can go ahead. Like, what are your general thoughts on it? As of right now in 2020.
I think Quebec needs to do some work economically to progressively reach it more and more autonomy, to give more possibilities to possible independence, and to reduce the being too radical into the movement. For example, we need to do some economical changes to do so. Through this, we can make the independence easier. We can reach the independence in a better state and a better and healthier system than if it were to be too radical.
Okay. How about you, View?
Well, we basically just need to just get more independent from Canada first, then just like prone that
How'd
we
you go
are
about
really
that?
independent. What do you mean?
Like, would it be more of like a revolutionary sort of secession, or a one by like ballot?
I guess revolutionary. I don't really know what you mean because I'm
Like
retarded.
a full on war, or just like a referendum?
Oh no, we don't need a fucking war. We don't need a war.
So
We
like a
really don't.
referendum, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, once we're
revolution-
there, we should, but we're not ready for it yet.
the revolutionary
As a matter of fact,
si-
because
the revolutionary side isn't really necessary in nowadays society concerning Quebec, because we can do it through the system, how to say, through the federalist system. We can just debate and do through referendums and convincing people to vote for yes instead of no.
Yeah, I'd like to add something about that. Exactly. I think that through a referendum is a way better choice than a revolutionary one. It's just logic, you know. I don't want the all our infrastructure, everything we build, getting destroyed over war. Having a crippled economy because we decided to shoot people other than go for a referendum. But yes, I mean, I think we're very lucky. Canada is pretty. They hear other people out, and I think that if we went for a referendum, it would indeed work. But if they weren't cooperative with the majority, if it would happen to be a majority yes for the referendum, I mean, if they say no, you won't be independent, we should take up arms. But until then, I think that yes, referendum is way more preferable.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about what if they just completely shoot it down, because you have mentioned that they've put in bills to kind of suppress the French population. So it'd be pretty likely that they'd say no to that referendum.
Well, there's a pretty interesting story about that. Once there was a captain called Marcel Sauvé, and both Supa, Vio, and me know about that story. Basically, it's Pierre-Éliott Trudeau. What he tried to do is that if it was a majority yes for the 95 referendum, he would have sent in the army and completely suppressed, well, I mean, annexed the provisional country. But I don't think they would do that. I don't think Trudeau would have the balls to do anything like that. He's way
oh, he
beyond
wouldn't.
that.
He really wouldn't.
He's a pussy.
We could fuck him up. Let's fuck him up.
So we have a question from Yugoslavia.t in the chat. If Quebec became its own country one day, what would be the capital city? And I guess he's asking about like Quebec City or Montreal.
I think
It would still be Quebec because
it would
it's
still
been
be
Quebec
Quebec.
since the beginning.
Okay.
So it
Yeah,
would be
despite-
Quebec as well, because it was pretty much one of the first settlements and successful settlements in French-speaking North America, and it gets some kind of prestige from there.
Okay, I have a question from
Yeah.
Canada
Yeah.
first. They say, what do the Quebecans think about national identity compared to provincial identity?
Oof. National identity meaning Canada?
Yeah, Canada in general versus provincial, like Ontario compared to Quebec, or Nova Scotia compared to British Columbia, for example.
Oof. Well, I think that, Quebecers are way more proud of provincial identity than national. Even for the non-independentist one, because it's a whole culture, it's a whole language. My father's he's a federalist, and yet, I mean, he really loves he's really proud of speaking French, and etc. etc.
There's some kind of pride between the culture and the French-speaking area, and there are people that do not come from a French-speaking society tend to not understand and forget the fact that culture and politics in the French hemisphere are pretty much in correlation with the pride they have. Whether you speak when you speak French, you have some kind of pride to be able to speak French as your native language, and it has big links with your culture and in your political opinion.
Okay. I mean, you know.
Yeah, well, French is pretty much our culture.
Yep.
Yes, it often turns around this. Nowadays, the question of independence between yes or no aren't necessarily the question around what the stakes are in Quebec. The stakes are rather around the French language rather than the independence itself.
Right.
This is a tendency among the youth.
Yeah, I think I have like a question. And I think I asked it the last video, but what is
Mhm.
the opinion of the younger population about Quebec independence? Is it like
All right.
It's
Well,
really diverse.
it's pretty
It's really
diverse. How to
diverse.
say? Let's say that there will be an equal amount of yes and no, but there's a really small amount of people that actually have an opinion about whether Quebec should be an independent state or not among the youth. Like some people, let's say 20% of the people will be for yes, 20% of the people will be for no, but the 60% that is between that has no um, actual opinion about yes or no Quebec should be independent have more an opinion, like I said earlier, about the French language, the Quebecer culture, and the French Canadian, the French speaking Canadians. They want to preserve the culture, and they still support a really strong autonomous idea that Quebec should maintain in order to maintain the French speaking majority that they have the chance to be and have.
That is actually very true, and I'd like to point out that yes, a lot of youngsters tend to follow the Québec solidaire, which is, well, I spoke about it last time, but yeah, like Super said, the majority of them actually, well, they support the idea without really having a valid argument for it. It's just they're not really ready politically.
Yeah, like they
Well,
know
most
that
people just don't
they
care.
basically just know the cause, not really that much in depth with it.
and
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
pretty
think a good
much.
follow-up question would be, what are they teaching in Quebec schools?
Well,
Well,
they only teach really everything is really centralized around Quebec's history. For example, we usually begin with a small amount of history about the First Nations that were in the area where Quebec is mainly. Then we really go on about the French period, where the French were settling and doing trade with the First Nations all around the St. Lawrence and the part where Louisiana is. But we mainly stay around Quebec, like everything around the St. Lawrence.
Okay.
And
yeah,
then we learn about the war where Quebec fall from the French to the English, and this is where we teach how the English try to assimilate us, not in order to just say, "Yo, they're the enemies, they're this, they're that." It's really to show how we just stayed together, like we stayed united, thanks to the Catholic Church, thanks to our culture where it promotes help between one another, and it just promotes the fact that we need to be proud of who we are, and we need to be proud that we're still there today. And then we get to the industrial revolutions, like all that kind of stuff that the Western Hemisphere has to just say about its history and how, for example, during the World War, after once we got that, we just check how Quebec refused to battle for a country that it doesn't approve the legitimacy of. We just say, well, why would should I battle? Why should I defend a country that tried to assimilate me for so many years? Yet I'm still there, but they want me to enter the army and battle for them.
Yeah.
Like we show, like, for example, we show how the French Canadians were along the French on the front against Germany, and they were singing La Marseillaise. They to get the idea, like, we're French and we're French speaking and we're French speaking cousins, and we're still there. We're still cousins. We're still people that speak French, and we're still among the francophonie. And then we just get to the modern area where we see the birth of the Quebec identity instead of the French Canadian identity, because there is a difference. Where the Quebec's modern history, we see all the things we did by ourselves thanks to the Federalists. We teach how the government just did so many stuff for the Quebecers, and so everything be as much as possible French speaking. So we replace all the administration stuff, all the high society, as much French speaking as possible to counter the oppressive English assimilation system Canada had at the time. So this way we could make French a valuable thing to consider among the Federation and to include it in the federal system as a language that should matter. And so all these all these things we've done, like nationalizing our hydroelectricity, these kind of things that make us proud to be ourselves, that makes us proud to just say, yo, we did stuff by ourselves. We don't need anybody to tell us what we do. Basically, this is a lot of stuff we usually learn about Quebec's history.
Yeah, and the political, well, in schools, contrary to some beliefs, it's not very on a political side or the other. It really shows both sides of the table, and
that too.
both on a federal level and on a provincial level. It just shows, yeah, exactly. Super really, he said it all. It's pretty neutral, and it's all true. Yep.
The neutrality, the how to say the objectivity of the educational system is what is important to the educational system on the federal level, such as on the provincial level. That makes it like we don't say an opinion, like H said. We really do want to be as neutral as possible. Objectivity and facts matter more than subjectivity and opinions does.
Okay. And I'm gonna go to Unity here, who is from a different province in Canada. Does what happened in New Brunswick align with what the rest of the Quebecois were saying about the education system?
Um, I was actually homeschooled in New Brunswick, so I did not actually go to school and all that. But there's a lot of stuff that we are being assimilated. It's a lot more of a quiet affair. It's sort of like the grand replacement, but basically language-wise. As I'm sure you've heard of the Great Replacement and all that.
Oh yeah.
So like English people would move in, and slowly our languages would get assimilated to English. So not a lot is said about that. So it's a lot more of a quiet topic compared to Quebec.
So I think we're going to move on to our next question that came from Instagram. and that is how is the monarchy viewed in Canada? And I guess you could say on the federal level and then on a provincial level. And I guess it means the monarchy, with Great Britain and whatnot.
I can say it on a personal level. I think they should be lined up against the wall and shot. But yeah, I don't think I could say it any better than that.
In Minecraft, by the way, Feds watching this.
In Minecraft.
All right. So, anyone else have insight on the monarchy?
I would like to say that, well, on a provincial level, the Queen doesn't even come to Quebec since 1995 because of how violent the protests were, and that they completely didn't identify themselves with the Crown. And to be honest with you, the Crown did nothing for us. They did nothing. They were snakes. All they kept doing was profit from us or just treat us like shit. I don't know for the West, but I know that in Ontario they really cherish them because, I don't know, imperialist sentiment of the British Crown. But yeah, on a, let's say, provincial level for Quebec, they really are. They're most of all hated. On a personal level, I hate them. I don't see why we're still affiliated with them, even after we got all our independence from them, judiciary or anything.
Okay.
Well, nowadays they're just there to be there. Like, they're completely useless.
Yes, and I could say that in their own country they're kind of useless too. They're just there to be seen. It's kind of there to quote unquote hold tradition in the UK.
Yeah, it's pretty much what it is.
Well, I mean, if Lady Diana was queen right now, I mean, maybe, because she was actually a symbol of modernity and that the crown needed to care for her people and not for just for themselves, but she got killed by them, and I don't know, not really. I mean, you see I think Prince Harry, he ditched the crown and he went to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that shows you how useless and just symbolic they are. They have no power. They say, oh, Queen of Fiji, Queen of all these overseas territory. She has no power over it.
Yeah, they have their own autonomous governments. The days.
Oh, she's just a symbol.
Yeah, the days of 1860 are well behind us. Unfortunately, democracy has swept over the world, or some type of form of a democratic system.
Coming to an end soon.
Yeah, we're starting to see it go away slowly, but yeah.
But yeah, as Super said earlier on the history matter, the Quebecois didn't. There was two sort of factions for the two world wars in Canada. There was the French nationalism, which was basically we don't affiliate ourselves with Canada, and the English went for imperialist sentiment, and that we learned because they basically were proud of being English. They wanted to help the crown, and we had the same issue in the Boers War, and many other conflicts that included colonial conflicts. And the Quebecois were always against that because why am I going to go fight for the bitch who wants me lined up and shot? So.
And fun fact, in 1970 we got fucked for it. We really got fucked.
1970. Can you enlighten us as to what happened? 1970.
In 1970, yeah, during the First World War, we got fucked because we protested and shit, and some people got shot and arrested because we didn't want to go fight for the.
Mm-hmm. And it was also sort of the same in Second World War.
Yeah, 3 people were shot or something in a protest, and
Yeah.
just shows you how fair the country was.
So I would say I'm surprised the deal wasn't made, considering that well, obviously the British are very greedy. Um, we can all see that. It doesn't take a political science major to say that. Um, but I'm surprised the deal wasn't made between the British and the French during either one of those wars. I mean, I would say the French owed the British a little bit more during the Second World War rather than the First World War because the French did kind of hold their own. But in the Second World War, the French, they got slaughtered, and obviously Dunkirk
Honestly,
did happen.
yeah, they got dunked on. Honestly,
Yeah, Dunkirk did happen, and a lot of British lives were massacred at
The,
Dunkirk.
Yes.
the French officials during the Second World War were just awful. They wouldn't give at least some good tactics, and that made that France just fall into the hands of the Germans really quickly.
Yeah, and the
The
Maginot.
problem with
Oh god.
hmm?
I was gonna say the
um,
Maginot Line did its job.
Indeed.
it did.
My great grandfather was at the Maginot Line, so in he was telling the story to my grandpa, which my grandpa just told me afterwards. Like the Maginot Line really did its job, and it's just that the majors first of all just underestimated that the technology was evolving really quickly, and they could go through the Ardennes like they did. It's just you have
Yep.
they didn't evaluate in their mind and their military tactics. They just applied the exact same as the ones they were in the First World War. They
I
didn't
mean, same
change
mistake.
them. They didn't evaluate anything. De Gaulle said it multiple times. You have to not disperse your army. You have to put it. You're better to put it in one piece and fight one after the other. And nobody listened to De Gaulle, and he has written a book about it, and I
Yep.
really recommend the book, although I do not remember the title of it.
Yes, de Gaulle was a great general, and the problem with France, and my great grandfather fought in the Alps with the Alpine troopers against the Italians. The the regular French soldier was really well equipped, and he could hold his own. The only problem was that French high command were over 70, almost all of them,
They
and
didn't evaluate.
De Gaulle had a specific view, and yes, he wrote a book about it. He was basically a blitzkrieg tactician. The man believed that the future of warfare was mechanical and armored piercing tactics, and nobody listened to him. Even Pétain, in an act of jealousy, Pétain, the guy who led Vichy France, he took the he took the rights for the book and didn't write de Gaulle's name in one of his books. So basically, nobody listened to de Gaulle, and that's what happened. The news came too late that they had to modernize their army. Uh, Everything was in shambles. Basically, all their government was divided. The communists were gaining a lot of popularity, and their army was completely disjointed. So, but on average, the French did really well defending, mostly in the south, where they were at number like 10-1, and they still held against the Italians.
So I kind of want to go back to the monarchy question, but I want to direct it at Unity because obviously he's from a different province, but there's a lot of mixture in that province of English and French speakers. So Unity, what is the view of the crown in New Brunswick?
Well, lots of the English people, ever New Brunswick is a bit more traditional. So when it comes to people in, say, St. John, they would like it a bit more. Moncton would be very split because Moncton is like sort of half French, half English. So there might be tension there. In fact, there has been tension in Moncton some years ago due to French and English rivalries in the city. So it's sort of like Montreal in a way.
No, okay.
Oh, New Brunswick is really divided. There's like
Yeah, it's really
there's
divided when
pretty
it comes
much
to
the
the French
bunch
and
of
English people.
loyalists, and then like the French people are kind of
Yeah,
similar
the French
to
people that are
Quebec's
getting
position.
replaced.
All right. So I think this is another question from Instagram. Is your Chinese problem as bad as people make it out to be? I think
Only in
this.
British Columbia and the West.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
I
Like
think,
if we don't really have a Chinese problem in the East. It's really in the West with British Columbia, where I've
And
seen
Toronto.
yeah I've seen issues with how Chinese millionaires or even billionaires from actual China send their daughters and all to buy like a deluxe condo in British Columbia and actually didn't live in it. And the problem was that uh, it was like basically a vacation resort, and Vancouver actually had problems getting their population homes, while these Chinese didn't even spend time in these homes. Like it was only a vacation where they would go 1 or 2 days over there and just leave, while there were people just looking for homes and couldn't find any because they were all being taken. But yeah, we don't really have Chinese problems. We have other ethnicities, but
yeah, and
not.
I think we can kind of segue into that. What the current issue is. I know the Syrian migrant crisis has been, and just the refugee crisis from Africa and the Middle East has been a hot topic since I would say 2015, 2016. Um, and we can talk about that. Like, what do you guys see the most in your neighborhoods and in your cities and whatnot? Um, and
Well, I agree with that, and most people are scared of talking about these topics um, because they're probably going to be called racists. And you know, I'm from Lebanese descent. My father came from Lebanon when he was about 7 or 4. Yeah, when he was 4 during the civil war, and he was a Christian Orthodox Lebanese. We came here, and the problem is not immigration; it's assimilation within the system. I'm Lebanese, nearly a quarter, and yet, I mean, I speak perfect Quebecois. I don't necessarily have a religion. You know, I do everything a Quebecois would normally do. I mean, I don't brag any ideology from the Middle East, but the problem is not the immigration; it's the fact that we take too much and that we cannot handle it.
The fact as well that Quebec usually has some autonomy about the immigration system, where we are able to choose our economical immigrants, but there are other types of immigration, such as the refugees one. And the refugees one is decided by Canada, but the thing is that most refugees are more tended to learn English instead of French. And so Quebec has to spend a lot of money into the integration of those immigrants so they can be able to actually integrate a society that is French speaking by majority instead of English, that is the most spoken language in the rest of Canada outside of Quebec.
Yep, and the fact that we have a big English community in Montreal is due to, well, the English Canadian control of Quebec's immigration back then. We had a big wave of Greek immigrants, and none of them speak French for the only and simple fact that they would send them to English schools. And my father actually, he would have been one of those Englishmen, but my grandmother lied to the system that they were not Orthodox but Catholic, because that's how they actually chose the system and where to put kids in school, and that's how they, that's the partition. And basically, all people of Greek descent in Montreal, they're part of the English Montrealese community, because they never got to learn French because it was imposed on them to speak English by the Canadian government.
And I think I think we discussed this. I want to say on the video that we posted earlier this week, about the same type of conversations about Canadian government in the schools, but you know we can include in that conversation is the schools that the natives were put into, the residential schools.
Yes.
It seems like the Canadian government has a knack for enforcing their will on the populace, the non-English.
Yes, but they'll never admit that.
Yeah, but I think we're all to blame for this. Even the Quebecois. I mean,
We're all to blame, but there's a difference. Like when they say like, yeah, we're kind of how to say colonizing and everything, but they don't make the distinction between Canada that is the result of colonization, but also continues colonization, whereas Quebec is a result of colonization, but does not approve colonization nowadays. It does not approve the fact that Canada does such things to the native people. We our party representing us to the federal level, which is the Bloc Québécois, just shows we should stop. The federal system just should stop imposing stuff to the native people and do things in collaboration with them in order to make their life much better than it is right now. But they just won't listen.
That's I mean it's tough when you have a government that wants to impose its will on just about everyone and everything inside of it. I mean the United States is kind of the same way, but it's more regionalized. But I have a question, and this is kind of like a throwaway question, kind of goofy.
Yeah.
Just kind of like lighten the mood a little bit. Is it poutine or Putin?
Putin.
Putin.
Okay. Unity?
It's Putin.
Okay.
Yeah, Putin.
Okay, because as I discussed in the last episode, I lived in Acadia, Maine. Northern Maine, and they call it poutine.
Yeah, like Putin Rape.
Yeah, and it's
bunch of retards.
and they don't use
Fuck off! I love Putin Rape.
And they don't use cheese curds. They just use like mozzarella cheese.
It's not Putin.
Oh my god, this is
it's not Putin.
Bruh, that sounds Acadians, like fucking Acadians.
No, I've never heard. I that must be a main thing. I've never heard of that either.
Yo,
Who the fuck doesn't put the squid
New Brunswick's full of it.
Putting
New Brunswick's full of it, bruh.
Putting mozzarella in your poutine, this is cursed, man. You just.
I think that's a main thing because I've never seen that in New Brunswick.
It's a New Brunswick thing. Fuck off.
It is.
It's all your fat Acadian bitches eat.
This is a Canadian thing because you all know the pineapple pizza. That was Canadian.
Yeah, Canadians are fucking stupid when it comes to food.
I'm mostly Italian, so I still haven't forgiven you guys for that fucking monstrosity.
You want those ketchup crisps? Yes, it was Canadian.
All right. Well, here's sorry. So we'll go into something a little bit more obscure now that we got that out of the way. So do you guys know about the disputed island?
Which
with Denmark?
Oh yes.
Yeah. I've heard of those.
Yeah, that's
So it's basically a rock where they put like Canadian whiskey and
schnapps.
they keep changing flags and they exchange each other alcohol, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a
I like that.
Danish schnapps.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, it's Oh
To be
yeah.
honest, it's kind of it's
Right
just
wing
kind of
you
is,
go-
is in the chat and they said ketchup chips are good and I can I can attest to that because
Wait, no, I thought that was British Columbia. Never mind.
we don't have ketchup chips in the States, and I have actively gone into Canada multiple times to go buy some ketchup chips. But I think
Bye, mom. I'm going shopping. I'm going to Canada.
to each his own taste, and I respect that.
I mean, to be honest, the Pringles are a little bit better than the Lay's. I think it's just the texture, but
Perhaps, yeah.
Only thing is, when you get to finish the Pringles, it's hard to reach.
yeah, like just
Yeah, well, at least,
put your mouth
well,
around
when
it.
you buy Pringles, you have all the fucking thing
Probably
filled.
get moved to the AFK channel.
Fucking Lay's is just here. Yeah,
Um,
damn.
Yeah, that's that's one thing that a lot of people don't understand. Like because I had a buddy from Saskatchewan a long time ago. When he told me about ketchup chips, I was like, "Get the fuck out of here!"
What is a ketchup?
And I actually got to try them like 2 years ago or last year, and not too bad in my opinion. Not too bad.
Yeah.
Trying to think of other things. I mean, I would say your guys is the customs. I mean, at least in New Brunswick, I can't. My dad was a truck driver, over the road, and he said that the customs in like Toronto near Detroit and all that area, basically the Ontario
Yeah.
area, is pretty hardcore.
How come?
I have no idea. I think it's just how they are, and it's usually on the U.S. side that they're pretty hardcore too.
Yeah, it's mainly on the US side that they're
Based. Let's go.
pretty harsh,
Yeah, but
otherwise it's pretty fine.
in New Brunswick they're not too bad. We haven't had a whole lot of trouble. In fact, I think, like I said, the U.S. is the worst with it.
Yeah.
Coming back, if we have to, because where I used to live in Maine, the nearest McDonald's in the States was 45 minutes away. Like that goes for any fast food restaurant or any big shopping center for that matter.
Yeah.
Because the nearest Walmart was 45 minutes away. So, odds are you'd probably have to go into Canada if you wanted like a quick dinner or something. So, I mean,
Did you give them US dollars or you paid in Canadian?
we used the card, but
Oh, okay.
one thing I can ask is what's with Discover not being like used in Canada? If you guys know about that.
What?
Well, there's a credit card company in the United States called Discover.
Discover card.
Yeah.
And no one in Canada accepts them, at least in New Brunswick. No one in New Brunswick accepts them.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
I have never heard of that.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it.
It must be an American thing.
Yeah,
Probs.
I mean, like people rag on Discover a lot because it's kind of known as back in the day at least as non-reliable. But I mean, it's like they're an okay company now, but for some reason they won't. Canada won't accept them. But I find it funny that Canada won't accept it because Discover is the official credit card of the NHL.
All right.
Really?
Yes. And you can get a Discover card with any NHL team logo on the front of it, but Canada doesn't accept them, at least in New Brunswick. So I found that amusing.
Tim, I'll try some. All right, guys, I will pay you $20 if you can guess what language I'm speaking. I'm gonna say one word, and if you don't know what it is, I don't blame you, but there's a chance you might. Hoagie.
What?
What?
The fuck?
Guess what language is speaking. Just guess what language is speaking.
What's the word?
Hoagie.
Hoagie.
Pogie?
Hoagie?
Hoagie?
Hoagie.
I think you're speaking gay.
Yeah.
That
Fucking Irish, Welsh.
sounds like a fucking Nordic language, dude. I don't know, but
It's like in the Mid-Atlantic,
sure.
U.S. It's another word for like a sub.
Oh,
what
wow.
the fuck?
Yeah, like a submarine sandwich. That's what,
Yeah, we say
what-
hoagie.
Yeah, in South Jersey.
Oh my
or
God.
Okay, so that-
Philadelphia.
So
It's
that's
English.
English.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
English or some
English.
dialect or something. I don't even know.
Bruh. Y'all are retarded.
You telling me, bro? I have to live here.
Like
Yeah,
what?
If you go north
You
of
say-
Trenton, you're going to have
Like
you're gonna
what?
have
You
some-
pull up to your mom and you're like, "Yo, get me a hoagie,
Yeah, from Wawa.
bruh." What the fuck?
Now Wawa
Yeah.
is the local Native American word for Canadian goose.
Is it really?
Alright.
Yes.
Hey mom, give me a Wawa.
Give me brings you back a goose, bro.
Go get me some Wawa hoagie. Bruh,
that's-
you sound
that's
like
what
a
they're
fucking
known for.
caveman saying that.
God damn it. What a hoagie. Guess I'm gonna get some Wawa.
Exactly. Right.
Wawa hoagie.
Oh god,
Bruh,
we're
you
getting
sound
now.
retarded.
Yeah. So boys.
You put those together, it gives Arabic. Wawa hoagie mahiyya.
All right.
Yalla habibi.
So here's another question that's local to our region. What do you put on top of your ice cream, like your soft serve ice cream?
My what?
Soft serve ice cream, like custard.
Est-ce qu'il parle de sorbet?
Like you mean regular ice cream? Like what the
No,
fuck
no,
is soft serve?
Soft serve.
You don't know what soft serve.
La crème molle, esti, we
I
basically
only
put
know
chocolate
regular.
on it.
Oh,
the
okay.
crème glacée.
Crème molle. It's mixed. Both. It's chocolate vanilla.
Yeah, like that.
But
Yeah.
it's in like.
Oh, you mean like
I'll send a picture.
Alright,
fuck, what's it called?
Crème molle, il parle de crème molle.
A float. Yeah, those are called floats.
A
crème molle.
float? Bro.
Yeah.
You put
The
root beer
fuck,
in it?
Bernie? Get the fuck
Yeah,
out
that's a
with your
float.
fucking
Yeah,
Ontario
we have those here,
language
too.
speaking cut.
No, we're speaking our New Jerseyan, dude.
Wait, okay, so you guys call this a float?
Oh no, that's just ice cream.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
It's like soft serve ice cream.
Yeah, we call it soft serve ice cream because regular
Or
ice
custard.
cream is like, what you got when you go and buy in the supermarket. In the.
Damn, I
Yeah, it's
really
like
miss
crème molle.
Oh,
those.
that ice cream.
Do you guys know what
Come on.
you guys know what sprinkles are? Like the little I guess they're like little, like sprinkles.
Yeah, I
Yes.
know what the fuck are sprinkles.
Yeah. You know what we call it?
Not completely retarded.
How?
We call it Jimmy's in South Jersey.
Why?
You call it what?
Jimmy's.
Word.
I don't even know why.
There's no explanation.
There's no explanation at all.
Are you
Like
in
we say-
another fucking dimension or something?
Yeah, like down here instead of water, we say water. We said a sink, we say zinc.
Water.
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 Water. Yep.
Water.
Yep. It's so weird.
Yeah.
South Jersey is like a weird ass accent.
You're right.
Yeah, that's.
So this.
Wait, Tim, is it like the? Hold up.
I wrote a whole paper on this in high school, so I'm your expert on the difference between North and South.
What is it? Shit. What's like the It's like it's like a pork roll or Taylor.
Taylor ham. Yeah, that's they
Yeah,
call it
you guys know
Taylor ham up north. I don't think they would know.
Do you guys know what Taylor ham is?
No.
No.
I think I do.
Nah.
You might
I
have to
think
send
I
us
think
a
I
picture.
might.
I'll
If
send
you
a
send a
picture.
picture, I think I might know what it is.
I'll send a picture. Okay. It's just a meat more or less.
Yeah, it's a breakfast meat. A lot of people.
I'm about to send a picture. Hold up. Yeah, it's the
Bruh.
meat on the sandwich. This sandwich looks disgusting, but it's the meat on the sandwich. No,
Well, Wawa is like a
that's
convenience-
Oh, that's actually hot. I love that. No, it looks good. That looks good.
C'est du ballonné.
Oh, that-
C'est du ballonné, ça.
No,
C'est
it's
du ballonné.
C'est pas ballonné.
C'est du ballonné, c'est écrit.
Yeah,
C'est du ballonné rôti, esti. C'est du ballonné, tabarnak. Dis-moi pas.
So we call it bologna, so basically it's fake ham.
That's bologna goes on like a lunch sandwich down here.
yeah, lunch.
Yeah.
But like so, like Taylor ham in South Jersey we call it pork roll.
Yeah, it's basically just ham.
Yeah.
Yes, like sliced ham, more or less.
C'est du jambon, ça.
Yeah, there's
Shut
a lot
up.
of, like
Oui, c'est jambon.
Ah, c'est du jambon, ça a du crise de ballon.
also so my Quebecois, there's a comment in the on the stream, and I really don't I don't want to try and butcher it, to be honest. I can't pronounce the first word, but I know parler de bouffe.
Pass
I
it.
What?
mean,
What?
you can just write it if you're not sure.
Yeah, just write it off.
Something of beef.
It's like a C with a little accent at the bottom. C-A.
Yeah,
Parlay.
CCD.
Wait, how do you pronounce that?
CCD.
C'est it's like a S. You pronounce it like a S, basically.
Yeah.
So C-A, or S-A, whatever. That, and then parler de bouffe. B-O-U-F-F-E.
Il parle de bouffe.
Yeah.
You're talking about beef?
Ouais, ça parle de
that makes
bouffe.
sense.
No, we're talking about food. It's
Oh,
is
yeah,
what
yeah.
they
Yeah,
said.
but
You're retarded,
bouffe,
Bernie.
bouffe means food.
Or pass the food. Okay, I said pass the booth. Got it. Thank you.
All right.
I'm
Tim.
trying to think- what?
I read into it, and the reason why we have like a different dialect in English from like different parts of the country is like the different area of like England that are settled here with their different dialect.
Well, yeah. Well, our dialect
Right.
from Philadelphia is like more Germanic, like and North Jersey is more Italian because of New York.
Ah. Where's the fucking money, Lebowski? I told you to give me my money by tomorrow.
That
What are you
sounds
talking
more
about?
Russian to me.
Yeah, that sounds really
Mamma
Russian.
mia.
What are you, Slav, dude? Just
Yeah,
really-
Lebowski too. Like anything with ski at the end of it.
I'm trying to do the I don't know, mob boss Italian sort of
Well,
thing.
When I get really angry, like I get you can start hearing my Italian accent, but
Yeah, when I get mad,
Uh-huh.
I just hit things basically.
Also, Admin D is in the chat. That's who asked about food.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Really
Mamma
Russian.
mia.
No problem.
So I think
bonjour, Dave.
I think
Bruh.
this was a good stream. It's unfortunate that we didn't have any debate or anything because I did kind of want some blood sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was excited for like the fucking blood sports.
Maybe another time, but
I had such a good line planned, but they would get like
Yeah.
everyone. They would get literally everyone mad.
I'll do it.
Say it.
Get these guys.
Say it.
Okay. Honestly, it's
I
a
just
it's a
wanna-
pretty controversial opinion, but I think the U.S. should just annex Canada in its entirety. Yeah, they're my eardrums,
He just
guys.
gave him a fucking exorcism.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Do it. I don't give a shit. Honestly, we're better off without Canada.
No, he said in its entirety, so even Quebec.
No,
we might give you some autonomy. We'll think about it.
no, no.
We'll think about it.
Yeah, we'll think about
We'll
it.
consider it.
I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah,
alright?
well-
If you said that to the Ontario boy, he would have went fucking ham. He would have said, "What the f- we're not the same people." You
Yeah,
can't-"
even though Ontario is
We
literally
will become the
America.
same people after
Ontario
this.
is just America. I don't know why they would get so offended by that.
I know.
So any last
Well,
remarks?
a lot of Quebec.
I'd
Go on.
like to say that. Well, I don't know if I should do it again, but I'm gonna call out. I'm gonna call out BC one last time.
You're a bitch.
Where are you, man? You talk shit and you don't pull up, man.
You don't pull up to you
That
don't
ain't
pull up to
good.
the Discord call, bro. That's a pussy shit, bro.
Yeah, bro, pull up.
Pop out to the Discord call, bro.
So yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
But,
hopefully,
yeah.
hopefully we can have an actual debate, and maybe we can bring you guys back. I want to have you guys back. You guys are cool and fun to have around and whatnot. Maybe we could just talk about different topics, like more world topics, like about Europe and whatnot.
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah,
it was
sure.
awesome. It
It's a
was
pleasure.
awesome with me boys from Quebec. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
boys.
That's in the boys.
So, ok, fait qu'on va finir le stream en français.
Yeah, totally. That's what I was thinking.
J'ai de la marde, mes estis d'anglais.
Mangez le merde!
Ma gang d'anglais, décolle ici.
So,
Oh
so yeah,
god.
like I said, yeah, we'll bring you guys back on. Stream's gonna be next Friday. We don't know what's gonna be on yet.
Yeah.
We can
Hold on. I got a question. So basically, you guys heard about Jude Sepp?
What?
Jude Sepp. He's a really important figure in Quebec.
You're doing Joe something like who's Joe, and then you say Joe Mama. Right? Is that what's gonna happen?
Oh god.
Yep, that's precisely.
Okay. On that note, this is Steve. Be sure to follow all
Get
these
fucked,
guys.
idiot.
On Instagram. I'm gonna put most of their pages down below. I know some people want to keep their,
Follow official Quebec ball.
Yeah, follow official Quebec ball. Follow Unity.McCabe.
Represent.
Follow Quebec Right Wingism. Follow New Jersey Right Wingism. And be sure to subscribe, hit those post notifications, watch the rest of our videos, and until next time, peace.
Bye.